was mentioned again today. In the past, he was a 9 pints a night man who called it a working class mentality. Now, his own defence asked him, have you ever got so drunk that you decided to rape? He replied, I'm sure he was also reminded that there was a man of good character with no previous convictions. The judge has sent home to the detained. They will return on Monday. They will listen to the judge sum up the case then before retiring to consider their verdict. Danny Savage reporting.
It is 5 Live Drive with Jonathan Overend and Claire McDonnell, and it is 22 minutes to 5 o'clock. Now, a group of MPs have called for a full parliamentary inquiry into the running of the civil service. Their report highlights an atmosphere of blame, with officials and ministers trying to pin responsibility for failure on each other. They list examples of incompetence, such as the collapse of the tendering process for the West Coast Main Line last autumn. Well, let's get a view from both sides now. Bernard Jenkins is a Conservative MP who chairs the Public Administration Select Committee who published this report. Good afternoon. Hopefully Bernard Jenkins is there. We're also joined by Martin Stanley, who's a former senior civil servant who now runs a website advising on how to be a civil servant. Good afternoon to you.
Hello there.
So let's start off with civil servants. When we hear that phrase, we think, grey men and women behind the scenes, implementing policies, set by government. How important are they?
I think pretty important, and not very grey these days, but they're certainly behind the scenes. It's nearly 100 years since the relationship between ministers and civil servants was last looked at by Road Hogg, and he said there ought to be mutual interdependence, which implies that civil servants should be behind the scenes and ministers should take responsibility for everything that goes right and everything that goes wrong. And what Bernard Jenkins is saying is we need to re-examine that relationship.
We know it's a tricky relationship. It's come to the fore in recent days, in the last 24 hours, with Ian Duncan Smith basically kind of blaming his civil servants in Parliament. He says he's not blaming civil servants, but he says, which is kind of tautology, I made decisions that led to the removal of some of those who were charged with the responsibility of delivering universal credit. So he's actually kind of blaming them, not blaming them, but removing them from position at the same time. There's quite a bit of muddling going on at the moment, isn't there, between and civil servants?
If you're outside government, you really can't tell who is to blame or what's gone wrong. Were the civil service incompetent, or were the objectives unrealistic, or the timescales unrealistic? Or maybe a combination of all three.
And I guess the general public are thinking, well, who is to blame? Who did mess this up? For example, the tendering process of the West Coast Main Line last autumn. There's another example